Welcome back to another episode of Thinking That Matters. I'm Elizabeth Mahusai, your host, and I am excited to share with you my friend, Carrie Campbell, who is the owner of Main Mentor. So Carrie, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and explain the name of your business, please.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a huge fan of the show. I run a program called Main Mentors. We are based here in Fairview, Texas. We teach horsemanship skills to young adults to adults with disabilities. And along with horsemanship skills, we incorporate a lot of just general life lessons, personal development. I would say just a broader understanding of ourselves and the animals and our community around us through horses.
Oh, I love that. And you said something that was caught my attention. You said personal development. Can you give me an example of what that looks like for someone that's coming to work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It actually makes my role much easier in this whole business idea because really the main teachers here are the horses themselves. So the name Main Mentors is spelled M-A-N-E, like a horse mane. So that was very intentional. And the idea being that the horses are really the mentors here, the teachers. And so personal development really comes from what parts of ourselves are mirrored or illuminated or brought to light through working with these animals.
Ah, okay. I love that your approach is that the horses are the main mentors.
Yep.
First of all, I mean, it just gives you a new appreciation for the name. And of course, for those of you listening and or watching, Carrie and I met through networking. And so I've been hearing her share her commercial about Main Mentors for a while. And then you kind of added along the way about Maine like horses. And so that's awesome. I love that. Now, what got you passionate about horses and horsemanship?
Totally. I love this question because it always makes me think of what my parents' response would be. I grew up on a beach town in Florida.
Which beach town?
Venice. Little town of Venice, south of Sarasota. I know you're familiar because we're both Floridians.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. We lived like an hour from Venice.
Exactly.
Oh my word. Okay, go ahead.
Yep. And so when I was 4, my mom would tell me that you started asking for riding lessons, horse lessons. And she was like, where is this coming from? And she required that I be a little bit physically bigger before starting riding. So she held me off till I was 6 years old, put me in dance, which I am not a dancer. That was my older sister. She is the graceful ballerina in the family. And so this love of horses came, I could not explain it. I've loved them my whole life. I have pictures of me even younger than 4, greeting someone else's family friend's horse or something. I've just always loved them. So that's where I say it was just like a God-instilled love in my heart. So I have been a lifelong horsewoman and always had horses as an extracurricular between after school and in between summers of school years. I owned horses and rode horses and leased other horses from that belonged to other people. And then along with that, I also was just a very consistent volunteer at what you would consider to be like a more traditional therapeutic riding facilities. These big facilities that really promote more of the physical therapy of kids to adults, all ages, of what the horse, from sitting on a horse, the horse moving under us and what that can benefit us physically. And so I volunteered as a teenager. And then I eventually went out to college in Los Angeles and continued to volunteer out there. And then I'm sure we might get into some of this as the conversation continues, but ultimately made our way here to North Texas and volunteered at some of the bigger therapeutic riding facilities in this area. And so I've kept them always as an extracurricular. I did an economics degree and worked in the insurance industry for over a decade. And so that was really my professional background. But COVID was a big kind of life catalyst, turning of a page moment just for my husband and I's life. And we just decided to do just a big overhaul, a big reevaluation of where we are, what our lifestyle looks like, what we're doing. And then for me, especially, it was what I was doing professionally. So took a long break from my corporate career and decided that I think I'm going to take what I have kept kind of on the wings in my life and bring them front and center. And so that's the volunteering, that's the horses, that's the kind of purpose-driven work, that's the community involvement, trying to make an impact in this little corner of the community that I inhabit. And that's what led me to ultimately come up with this business idea. And so horses have just been the kind of golden thread throughout.
I love it. Okay, I have to ask, when you lived like in Beach Town, because I'm familiar with Venice, like, did you have horses at the house there?
Definitely not. We were always walking distance from the beach. We drove a little ways. I don't know if you're familiar with Inglewood.
Oh, yes.
So
oh, my word. This is like blowing my mind.
Yeah. So there was definitely horse property down there, and we'd made some just lifelong friend connections. I had a pony from when I was really little and boarded him at a barn down there. And again, thank you to my parents who, my mom during the week and my dad on the weekends would drive me down, and we'd spend as much time there as possible.
That's really incredible. It did not escape my notice when you said that there were a lot of different things that you said. Okay, just real quick side, what was underneath getting an economics degree?
Sure. That, I guess, kind of as an aside, in high school, I had an incredible economics teacher, and just one of those teachers that just leave a big impact. And he just had so many of our students fall in love with the subject. And economics it's a degree in kind of teaching you how to think, and a lot of incorporating how the world works, but not being so heavily finance or so heavily accounting. It applied to a lot. And sometimes when you're in junior in high school, you can have a big interest in a subject and you don't really know how far it's going to take you. But I just kept with it. And even I went to Pepperdine, which is out in LA, and that economics degree was quite small. I was one of very few women a part of it. And so I just kind of stuck with it. And it was I grew up amongst entrepreneurs, but specifically in the insurance industry.
Okay.
So grandpa and dad, and then I worked in the family insurance business.
What type of insurance? PNC, commercial?
It was a niche business in specifically insurance for long haul truck drivers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. And so I ultimately studied for the agent's exam in between school years and worked there when I would go home from school over the summer. And then, so that was essentially like a career opportunity for me. And so I studied economics, kind of thinking like I might pursue the insurance thing. And then ultimately did. I just went a different route. I worked in reinsurance, which is another kind of specific area of the industry where your clients are insurance companies. So it's like a business transaction. Yeah. And I worked for a very big kind of a global firm that big accounts, and like you would think of heavy manufacturing or like Disney, for example,
right.
Or
they're getting insurance at a whole nother level.
Yeah, exactly.
A whole nother level.
Exactly. And so that was my career for nearly, I guess, 9 years.
Okay, so that helps me to understand the economics degree. And I just want to make note because it resonates with me so deeply when you said you had a high school teacher that just really cultivated passion within his students. Fred and I had that in our high school chemistry teacher. And the reason why I went and got a chemistry degree is because of what he was able to cultivate in us, specifically me as well as a student. Just for all of you high school teachers out there, you are difference makers.
Totally.
I mean, it's such a difference maker. So you spent some time in the insurance. At what point when you were pursuing insurance did you recognize I'm not here for the long haul?
I love that question because I think some of the questions that we discussed about limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. Do you mind if we just get into that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because I've thought a lot about this, and I think maybe not so cleanly packaged in limiting beliefs. Maybe you can help me parse this apart as we go on. But I have spent a lot of energy and time and research and resources personally trying to fit myself into environments that I'm not sure were really fit for me. Mm-hmm. But the limiting belief came from a deep internalization of, I must not have what it takes. I must just not be good enough. I must just not have read the right books yet, or have found the right Harvard Business Review article yet, or have just done quite enough time or research to really manage the situation on my own. And so what I think has happened is ultimately, if you're continuing to show up in an environment that just isn't for you, for whatever season or period of life you might be in, it will pay a toll on your body. And for me, I think after COVID, COVID was just a period, and I'm always interested in, since we kind of moved during that time, where you were in the US, where you were globally, but just what region you were in the US really determined what your COVID experience was like.
That is hands down true.
Totally. And so what I found is that if we had lived out here in the kind of lifestyle that we have out here, it would have just been much, I wouldn't say better, but I would just say different. The space you have and kind of just the clean air you have. But my husband and I were downtown Los Angeles. We lived right by what was the Staples Center, but now it's a crypto arena.
Oh.
And we had just moved right before it was February of 2020. We had just moved into like a brand new high-rise apartment. Beautiful place.
Oh, but you were trapped.
But yeah, it's like we moved to the 18th floor of a building that they said it's not actually safe to ride an elevator. And so we were part of the whole world turning. But then, and then
how do you get groceries?
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I'm saying? Like,
yeah, yeah. And then just a lot of the civil unrest and protests were just right outside our door. And we were just in the heart of it. And when you're in that environment, we kind of thought it might be forever. And so we just took a hard look at, we're in LA and paying that kind of LA lifestyle prices. And if the city is going to be like this for the foreseeable future, like it just might be time to reevaluate what we want in kind of the next chapter. And so I think with that, I just didn't want some big life catalyst moment. I know your generation, my generation, we all have our big kind of bookmark moments of things we've lived through. But I was like, I'm just not going to let this time go by without seizing it and saying, what do we want to be different? Or let's just take this really great opportunity, essentially, to do a big reevaluation. And so we did, and almost spun the globe a bit, and we're throwing darts. But sometimes what these decisions that they might seem like they happen on a whim actually happen under many, many, many dinner table conversations over many weeks to months and a lot of strategic planning. And so we ultimately had both of our offices, I had offices here in North Texas. We have family all over the country. So we thought, could we try to position ourselves where it's a little bit easier to see people?
Midway.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think it was like, I'm never not going to have horses. I would love to be in an area where just horses are more accessible. I drove for hours to go riding after work in LA. And this area just is one of those unique places where you can still have a little bit of country land. You still have city amenities. It's very, amongst the big cities in the US, it's very hard to kind of match all those together.
Yeah.
Can you still commute if you need to? Can you still have a backyard if you want to? So we really felt very lucky to kind of land where we did. But that was just a big...
So how long were you in the 18th floor apartment?
We were there almost exactly the whole 1 year.
1 year of your lease, basically. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just imagining, and I do want to echo what you were saying, that we'll stick with America because that's where we are. Where you lived in our country during that time very much impacted the overall perception of what was happening with COVID. Because, I had friends who lived in New York City, in other cities that were much more stringent.
Yeah.
And for a longer period of time, where I just got to say, us here in Texas, after probably really just a few months, we were all ready to rebel, basically. And I also worked in a large institution where we were looking at, okay, how can we follow guidelines and still give people who are comfortable an opportunity to engage with other people? Because that was the hardest part for me, was the isolation, like being away, because I feed off of engagement with other people. So I just think that's an important piece. So you got here to Texas. You were still doing insurance at that time?
Yep.
Okay. Now, did you go straight to right now with obviously having Main Mentor, I'm envisioning that you're on a small farm, or tell me about that.
Yeah. Again, just feel so fortunate to have landed in the little plot that we have. We have a little over 3.5 acres and a little 2-stall barn with 2 beautiful horses in it. And so again, another big lesson from COVID, and also that I would pay forward to other aspiring business owners. It's like, it's not just about building a business, it's about building a lifestyle. So like, what from COVID did we take that we wanted to, lifestyle changes that we essentially wanted to hold on to? And a big one was the flexibility, working from home, being able to spend time in our home. And my husband and I had time with each other. And I had always aspired, again, going back to like the little girl dreams, to have horses in the backyard. And so we have it now. And it just makes it so much easier. These horses are just interwoven into my day-to-day and my life, and I know them very well. And then, just right in the backyard.
I love that. And so I want to step back just for a moment to the limiting beliefs. You said trying to fit yourself into an environment that quite possibly is not fit for you. I am imagining that there are people listening or watching that kind of hits them at a visceral level, because they've been saying those things that you were saying. Well, I haven't given it enough time. I've not read the right books. I've not met the right people. I've not, you said, found the Harvard Journal
Business
article.
Review
Business Review
yeah.
article. I mean, but that goes to show how we begin searching for something to help it make sense for us. I do want to spend a little bit of time on that. So what have you done to reconcile, if I may say it that way, that the professional insurance space wasn't fit for you? Before we get into, obviously, horses are the right fit for you.
Totally.
But how did you reconcile that? What were the specific things you did to not be stuck in those limiting beliefs? Because, I mean, that's by very definition, they limit us from being who we can be. Yep. Accomplishing what we can accomplish. So speak to that for me.
Totally. And I think my answer is that I'm still continually doing that. It's essentially like holding a paradox. I carry a lot of my professional insurance corporate background with me. I don't think I would have just the general mindset, organization process, just kind of business habits or routines. Like that will always stay with me. And so with that, I think you're constantly, it wasn't a full like disappearing of one
to go into the other.
To go into the other. It's more of a constant work in integration. And ask me one more time. I'm just losing a little bit of my train of thought.
Oh, that's okay. I was saying, how do you reconcile the professional insurance world not being a fit?
Yep. Okay.
And then really overcoming those limiting beliefs of it. It actually wasn't about you didn't give it enough time. You didn't read the right books.
Yep. And where I would say, kind of just building off of what I just mentioned with the paradox, is that you also have to, it's this balance, or not even balance, I don't like that word that much, but
I don't either.
Like every time, if you have repeated problems, wherever you go, there you are. So you have to also understand that you are the common denominator.
Right.
And accountability is such a huge value of mine. So this is not at all a practice in me trying to skirt accountability, point fingers somewhere else, give excuses. I'm like allergic to those things. But what I will say is what I think I struggled with for such a long time is saying like, oh, this is a me problem. This is something wrong with me. I'm just not blank enough, or I'm just not getting this enough. I'm not equipped for this environment or the way that something's being managed. It must be a me problem. And I think that's where I just spent truly probably years just trying to, you can follow all the steps of advice of getting mentors, getting other people in the organization to talk to, getting outside help, your own mental health support, balancing your hobbies and your free time, trying to be the right amount of communicative with your most immediate team, and then not letting things go, but not so, it's like you can do all the things, and sometimes it's just not a you thing. And so it's like, I'm not, you know what, it's like, I'm not trying
Absolutely.
to, it's just, I think, that's where it was a big practice.
But I'm appreciating what you're saying is that we do have a culture of self-accountability, yes. I mean, that's part of it, but taking responsibility. We very much live in a culture of where we should take personal responsibility. And so I'm appreciating what you're saying. You know, we are the common denominator in any given circumstance. But if I may, something that you said that I was appreciating the perspective. You said it wasn't about a piece of you or a part of you disappearing, but instead it was an ongoing work of integrating what once was with where you are now.
Exactly.
And I believe there is a place where when there seems to be a pattern of is not working out, and you are doing the things, like you can do the things, it puts us in a place where we have now an opportunity. We can either take a step forward and see what happens, or we can remain stuck.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the challenge with remaining stuck is that's where people often spiral negatively.
Totally.
With whether it's depression or other areas, or bitterness or resentment or complacency. I just think about the challenge that becomes. For me, being a faith-led person, where I got to with this was taking one forward step of obedience at a time. Like, I'm going to take a step. We'll see what happens.
Exactly.
May work out, may not work out. I'm going to learn something, and then I'll take the next step.
Yep.
But it'll be an informed step.
Totally.
I love that. And then the other part about how your background is helping you presently
Totally.
in your current business.
Yeah.
I love it. So you brought what was once on the wings, your words, to the forefront of your life. What has it been like building your business?
Yeah. It's its own journey. And I used to almost say this as part joking, but now that I'm literally pregnant, it's like I almost called it, I would call it my business baby, because it's a being, it's an entity, and it requires massive parts of ourselves that first you maybe thought, again, here we go. It's the same things will continue to come up, but do I have what it takes? Parts of yourself that you didn't know you had that are now being called forward, or other parts that you're like, I'm actually really good at this, so let me just keep nailing that.
Yeah.
Or other parts, it's like, well, gee, it just exposes so much of your own self-reflection. And I have loved the process. I think I have the entrepreneur blood within me. Many of my family members have pursued their own business paths. And I joke because however long this journey continues or however it evolves, I would say it provides me a ton of experience to pay forward no matter what happens kind of going on. But also once you start doing your own thing on your own, it can make you harder to go back because and to your earlier point of you can either spiral and start to kind of sink in this really unhealthy space that starts to burn you to ashes, to be honest. Like sometimes eventually your body makes the decision for you because you're just living out of,
I agree.
You're living so incongruent for so long or living out of integrity for so long that's like my health is going to ultimately override my ability to make a decision to get out. So the decision to kind of stop the spiral and say, okay, if you want things to be different, you're going to have to do it yourself. Like you can complain all you want or try to make a massive cultural shift in your big company all you want, or speak out all you want. And that's great. You can make incremental steps here and there. And maybe you do make shifts enough to keep you there. But ultimately, if this is something that's bothering you this much, you're going to have to do something about it. And that's going to have to be on you. And that really fueled me in a good way. And that's really what kind of got the idea going. But even that, a lot of people automatically assume when you're talking horses and the disability community or the word, I'm careful to use the word therapy as I'm not a licensed therapist, but the word can be therapeutic. And they assume nonprofit. And I didn't do nonprofit. And that was also a very intentional decision. And so kind of having this little LLC that I can morph and grow and just like allow the baby to kind of come into being and what's required of it, I've really loved it. And also at the same time, like I said, it will illuminate the parts that you really love, where I'm also noticing, I'm like, okay, I see how big companies, the teams and the strengths that are required, because I love being in the barn. I love doing the do. I love the boots on, handling the horses, being in the work. But when you're doing your own thing, you required a lot of self-promote. People got to know who you are. People have to know you're even here. And depending on how you go about doing that, if I want to make a community impact, I have to be in the community. People need to kind of know. It's like if you want to come out and say,
you got to build the relationships. You've got to share the commercials at networking.
Purpose-driven work. You're like, great, love that. Who are you again? So it's just a lot of like, it sometimes takes everything out of me just to get through the door something. And then you're like, oh my gosh, now I have to actually be the one to kind of present myself. And that's just been its own journey. And I'm just like, geez, I just can't wait to get back in the barn with the horses. And so there's just a lot of like, you kind of are required all of it. And I like that as a challenge because first, it just makes me appreciate like the larger scale companies that you and I have been a part of. It's like, wow, what's required here? And then also it shows you, it's like, okay, going forward, maybe this is where you outsource. Maybe this is where you ask for more help. And then if it's really important to you to do the work in the barn, what else can you do so that you can maximize your time there? And then how can you replicate it? If I just get a lot of asks for volunteer help or other people to get involved, and like, how can we make this so that that's easier to invite someone in to help so that you can clear your space to do the work you want to do.
I'll tell you, one of the best ways, I love how you said it exposes. Like owning your own business exposes the best and the worst and all the in between. Because what I was thinking when you said that, one of the best ways to expose areas that need attention is to hire someone. Or to try to outsource something. Because they start asking the questions, and what about this? And I need to do this, and I need this to do that. And you're like, you know, I can remember when I first moved out of teaching and into direct sales, I needed an assistant. And I remember I was paying this gal to come to the house to help me with key things. And I'm like, I got to get my stuff together. Like, I have to be able to tell her what I need her to do. In order for me to tell her what I need her to do, I have to have it organized for her to, right? It can't just be in my head.
Sure.
And that's one of the things I talk with business leaders all the time about is like, you got to get that stuff out of your head and into a system, a process of someone else can follow even if you're not there.
Totally.
So I'm just so appreciating what you are saying. Tell me this, right now, how are your primary clients finding you?
Great question. I have found, so my most consistent client, we meet multiple times a week and we've been together for over a year now. I could not ask for a better situation in terms of what I set out to do to this client relationship, the relationship I have with his surrounding people and family. If I had to shut the whole thing down tomorrow, I would say I did what I said I was going to do.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just the best. And that family came to me through a referral from a woman doing very similar work to me. There's kind of often in really many cities, the horses used as health benefit, wellness, personal development, therapy, physical therapy. It's kind of considered the umbrella term called equine assisted services space. Those are everywhere.
Okay.
And if you kind of just drew a map around North Texas in our area, many of them would be PATH centers, which is essentially like an international regulatory agency, basically. That stands for Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship, or horses.
Okay.
Many of what people think of when they think of therapeutic riding is PATH centers.
Okay.
But even under that umbrella, there's many, many programs who are doing things like outside of PATH. PATH you follow, every facility you go to will be kind of similar. They use the same equipment, kind of similar routines, and it's good because it kind of keeps controls around it. But I found it can be very limiting in what you're able to really expand on. And I think there's people out there, I would include myself in this bucket, in the equine assisted services space, trying to do things a little bit more outside of these more firmer boundaries.
Yeah.
And so this other program, for example, based in Melissa, she heard of me. We kind of just swapped. We were introduced from another horsewoman. Again, horses continuing to be the common thread. She's like, look, this family, great, know them for a long time, not really fit for what we're doing here. It might be a fit for you. And so that's how a lot of the referrals come. It's just kind of shared through other people doing very similar services. And
I love
then
that.
I don't have, and this is intentional, people have a lot of opinions about this. I don't have a huge social media presence for the business. I'm not on social media personally, and a lot of reasons for that. But every so often, I think I've gotten a shout out from a friend or two to refer someone to me just through that. So I've gotten some traction just from people who have found just from somebody, like a friend of mine posting on some kind of shared post that way. And then I'm involved in the church, and Creekwood United Methodist here in our community has a very robust adult disability program.
Community. Okay,
and so just been able to connect with some families through there since we all kind of live in the same area. And I tend to target the age group that starts to age out of the school system. And that's intentional there. And so this program really overlaps. So that's a way. And then just the same way I met you is just trying to get out there, just say hi to people. And then I'll meet someone. I find just generally people really like to be helpful.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
and so somebody will say, I know this person who would be a good person. I just have always said yes. So if it's a coffee meeting, then they'll list 5 organizations or other groups that are in the area to say might be worth showing up. So
something that you said that I think is important, and because I know we'll need to wrap it up, but we started when you were talking about that limiting belief of trying to fit yourself into an environment that might not be a fit for you. And then you use that word again as it relates to, we call it in the sales world, a referral. And, you know, the gal that referred one of your best clients said, I don't think you're a fit for what we do, but it could be a fit for what you do. And that's the beauty of referring, is that you're able to find mutual fits. I also believe it's one of the biggest values of owning your own business. You have more control over not only defining what a fit is, an ideal client, also then being able to say yes or no based on that.
Yep.
Versus we're required to help no matter what. It could be a fit, it might not be a fit. So I just think that is just so important, going back to that word fit and how it's played a role in your life. Well, I'm definitely going to have you back on because we could talk about so many other things. I ask every single guest, just for the sake of time, why do you believe it's important to cultivate thinking that matters? Because throughout our whole conversation, even though we didn't necessarily use the word thinking specifically, but clearly there were threads of the importance of thinking throughout what you said. So why do you believe it's important to cultivate thinking that matters?
I think it's important to cultivate thinking that matters because thoughts are instructions. And I believe our thoughts can really dictate how we feel. And for me, working with animals, being in nature, being outdoors, kind of living by the seasons, mornings, evenings are very dictated by animals. They're feelers. They don't have the busy thought riddled minds and worrying about tomorrow or fretting about last week like we do. And so I think thinking that matters is because it dictates our feelings that matter and our intuition that matters and our instinct that matters and really the barriers that can get in between those things and prevent us from really feeling into our instinct and our intuition. And that to me is a big reason why what you're thinking about dictates so much of how you're going to be feeling.
Yeah. No, that does make sense. And it really goes along with you can think your way to action faster than you can feel your way to action because our feelings can become so jumbled in our human experience. And again, what you just said really underscores that your thoughts are instructions, right? We're basically telling ourselves how to act. And oftentimes how we choose to act very much will then impact how we feel about that.
Totally.
Oh, so many good things. I am so grateful for you. So for those, because we obviously have a lot of listeners who are local, tell them how they can find out more about Maine Mentor.
Yep, absolutely. So our website is mainmentors.com. And they can get a hold of me. I have my business cell on there for a call or a text. Love to talk. We usually have a kind of conversation first. Love to just hear about what they're interested in and their particular story or how I can best serve. And then with that, you can reach us at hello@mainmentors.com or Carrie, Carrie, @mainmentors.com.
And we'll have all of that information in the show notes as well. So they'll be able to see it there. Thank you so much for such an insightful look at not only about your background, but also about the intentionality of choices and being willing to take risks and do that next thing to find the right fit. I love it. All right. Well, we so appreciate you tuning in. I want to encourage you, like and subscribe to the show. Be sure to leave us a review. That is what allows us to have further reach. And I look forward to seeing you back here for another episode of Thinking That Matters. Hey, thanks for joining me today on Thinking That Matters. This episode brought to you by Go with Elizabeth, helping you align your thoughts with your God-given purpose.